Namaste viewers. In this clipping, I am making a small attempt to explain to you the concept of excess demand, deficient demand correction. There are many monetary measures undertaken by the banks and fiscal measures undertaken by the government to correct the excess demand and the deficient demand in an economy. Excess demand and deficient demand concepts are already known to you. So, when an economy has excess demand, which probably leads to an inflationary spiral, and when an economy has a deflationary or a deficient demand, what happens? How does the bank tackle it? How does the RBI and the commercial bank tackle it? We will see that. So, first we have the quantitative instrument under the monetary policy. First is the bank rate as a quantitative tool. Bank rate is a rate at which the central bank lends money to the commercial banks. Now, commercial banks, they do borrow a lot of money from the RBI. So, when RBI wants to follow a tight money policy, then they would increase the bank rate. Bank rate, as you have just understood, is the rate of interest that is paid by the commercial banks when they borrow from the RBI. So, increase in this bank rate will raise the cost of borrowing for the commercial bank, and the commercial banks which are profit motivated will in turn they will increase the lending rate to the common public. So this would eventually discourage the borrowings. The common public, it could be the households and the firms, they would not like to borrow when there is high interest rate prevailing. So increase in bank rate leads to increase in lending rates of the commercial bank, which will dampen the borrowings or discourage the borrowings. In turn, this reduces the money supply in the economy. So, when there is lesser money supply in the economy, that would mean less disposable income in the population. So, they will cut out on the consumption expenditure. So, AD will go down. You already know that AD is C plus I in the most simplest form. So, reduction in the money supply will cut the consumption expenditure, and that would reduce the aggregate demand. So, when an economy is suffering with a high aggregate demand, an excess aggregate demand corresponding to the full employment, then the RBI would resort to an increase in the bank rate. On the contrary, when there is a deficient demand, then the RBI would decrease the bank rate. So, when there is decrease in the bank rate undertaken by the RBI, this would reduce the cost of borrowings for the commercial banks, and in turn, the commercial banks will be encouraged to cut their lending rates. So, they will reduce the lending rates, and naturally that would encourage the borrowings in the economy. So, at a low interest rate, the common public would love to borrow more. This will increase the money supply and the income availability to the population. So, they will end up consuming a lot more, and that will push the aggregate demand up. If you remember, the problem was deficient aggregate demand. So, to tackle that deficient aggregate demand, RBI resorts to decrease in the bank rate. This, when it is going to be duly followed by the commercial banks, the commercial banks reduce the lending rate, and thereby they infuse more money supply into the economy. So, this is how change in the bank rate will affect the money supply, and thereby it corrects the excess aggregate demand and the deficient aggregate demand. So, bank rate and the money supply, they are inversely related. Increase in the bank rate would reduce the money supply, decrease in the bank rate will increase the money supply. Fine. So that's the first quantitative tool that the RBI undertakes. So with the cooperation of the commercial bank, they finally change the money supply and correct the aggregate demand problem. Moving on to the second tool, we have repo rate. Repo rate refers to the rate at which the central bank lends money to the commercial banks to meet up with the short-term needs. Now, repo rate is very similar to that of bank rate. The only difference between the bank rate and the repo rate is that while bank rate is a rate that is paid by the commercial bank for the long-term credit requirements, repo rate is the rate that is paid by the commercial bank while they borrow from the Reserve Bank for their short-term requirements. So, when there is going to be an excess aggregate demand in the economy, that would cause inflation, as you know. So, the RBI has to take a step for that. So, in order to correct the excess aggregate demand, they will decide to increase the repo rate. So, increase in repo rate means cost of borrowing for the commercial bank will become high. So, commercial banks in turn will increase their lending rates, and on the whole, this will discourage the borrowings and reduce the money supply. So, when there is less money with the public, they spend less on consumption. So, eventually the aggregate demand will go down, right? So, that's how increase in repo rate affects the excess aggregate demand. Excess aggregate demand will stand corrected when there is going to be increase in the repo rate. And then when there is going to be a deficient aggregate demand, the RBI will decide to decrease the repo rate. So, decreasing the repo rate will lead to decrease in the cost of borrowings for the commercial banks. So, the commercial banks now will in turn decrease their lending rates, and this will encourage the public to borrow more. So, that would infuse more credit into the economy. So, the population, they would love to increase the consumption expenditure, and that will increase aggregate demand. So, repo rate, which is the rate at which the central bank lends money to the commercial bank, that will alter the money supply and will correct the aggregate demand deficiency or an excess of aggregate demand, right? So, that is the second quantitative tool that the RBI makes use of. The third one is that of the open market operation. Open market operation refers to sale and purchase of the securities in the open market by the commercial banks. Now, the government securities and bonds, the central bank are the safekeepers of such bonds and securities. And when they want the money supply to be corrected in the economy, they use these government securities and bonds to change the money supply. During times of excess demand, the RBI decides to sell the securities to the commercial banks. And while the commercial banks are going to buy these securities, they'll have to pay up the money to buy these government securities. So that will reduce the reserves that are available with the commercial banks, and in turn, the amount that they are going to lend to the common public will reduce. So directly that cuts the money supply to the economy, and that will reduce the aggregate demand. Also, during the times of deficient demand, what happens is the RBI, in order to give more purchasing power to the population to correct the deficient demand, they would decide to purchase all the securities back. So, when they purchase all the securities back from the commercial banks, that would increase the reserves of the commercial banks, because the commercial banks are going to get money in return for their sale of the security back to the RBI. So commercial banks, when they have lot of reserves now, they will increase the lending to the common public. So this will give more money supply to the population. So consumption will duly increase, thereby the deficient aggregate demand will be corrected because of this. So open market operation that is undertaken by the RBI or the central bank, it will correct the excess demand and the deficient demand problems, while sale of security will correct the excess demand, purchase of security will correct the deficient demand problem. So we have seen bank rate, and then we have seen the repo rate. Bank rate is a rate at which the commercial bank borrows from the RBI for the long term, and repo rate is a rate at which the commercial bank borrows from the RBI for the short term requirements. The third tool that we have seen is that of the open market operation. Open market operation, it refers to sale and purchase of securities in the open market by the central bank. Now we will move on to the next monetary tool. The next monetary tool is LRR, or the legal reserve requirement. Now this legal reserve, it changes from time to time as per the government's and the RBI's decision. This LRR or legal reserve requirement can be broken into two components, namely the cash reserve ratio or the CRR and the statutory liquidity ratio or the SLR. CRR is nothing but the minimum percentage of net demand and time liabilities that is to be kept by the commercial banks with the central bank. Now all of you will be knowing that commercial banks, they accept lot of deposits from the public, and after collecting all these deposits, the second primary function of the commercial bank is to lend. Collecting deposits and lending are the two primary functions of the commercial bank, correct? So as the commercial banks collect the deposits, a part of such deposit should be maintained with the RBI. So it is that deposit which is called as a CRR, right? So look at that. CRR refers to the minimum percentage of the net demand and the time liabilities to be kept by the commercial banks with the central bank, right? So what is the other part of the deposit going, what's going to happen to the other part of the deposit? The other part of the deposit that remains with the commercial bank, the entire amount cannot be lent out. Part of it should be retained with the commercial banks, so that whenever the depositors are going to come to the bank to withdraw the money, they can do so. And of course, on regular basis, there will be some time deposits which will mature. So to enable withdrawal of all such, there will be some amount of money that will be kept as a reserve with the commercial bank. That is the SLR. So for that purpose, SLR is kept. So SLR refers to the minimum percentage of the net demand and the time liabilities that is to be kept by the commercial banks with themselves. So there are two parts. Out of the deposits that the commercial banks are going to collect, one part of the deposit will be kept with the RBI and the other part of the deposit will be kept with the commercial banks themselves. And that is what is called as a CRR and the SLR. Fine. Now, when the Reserve Bank wants to make a change in the money supply in the economy and thereby alter the aggregate demand deficiency or the excess problems, then it will resort to change in the LRR. So increase in the LRR, that is basically increase in the CRR and the SLR, that will reduce the amount of effective cash reserves with the commercial banks. So commercial banks, they will in turn reduce the credit creating capacity, and thereby money supply will go down in the economy. So what happens? Increase in CRR and SLR will correct the excess aggregate demand, right? Then when there is going to be a reduction in the CRR and the SLR, that would mean the RBI does not want lot of reserves to be kept. It is planning to make more money supply available to the population. That is why it decreases the CRR and the SLR, or rather it decreases all these reserves. So when the legal reserve ratio is slashed or reduced, there will be more amount of cash that goes to the economy in terms of money supply, and that will correct the deficient aggregate demand, right? Now, those are the quantitative tools that we saw. Let me just go back and show you the 4. So there we have the bank rate, and then the next one is the repo rate, and then the next one is the open market operation. There is purchase and sale of government securities and bonds, and then there is a legal reserve ratio, and as part of the legal reserve ratio, the CRR and the SLR. Now, moving on to the qualitative instruments, we have a few qualitative instruments. So what is the difference between the qualitative and the quantitative instruments? While quantitative instruments, they affect the money supply for the entire economy, the qualitative instruments, they affect the money supply only to certain projects or to certain sectors. The entire economy might not be affected due to these qualitative instruments. For instance, if the government finds out it is due to certain sectors that there is inflation in the economy, then it would be fine if only those sectors are going to be corrected. So, the credit availability only to such sectors will be corrected, or such activities will be curtailed. The government need not affect the money supply that is available to the entire population. So that is why there are these qualitative instruments undertaken by the RBI during some of the times. So let's just move on to understand these qualitative instruments. The first of the qualitative instrument is margin requirement. Margin requirement refers to difference between the market value of the security offered and the value of the amount lent. Now what is this? Now all of you know that when the public, there is again the households or the firms, when they decide to borrow money from the commercial banks do expect some sort of security or collateral, which is normally a fixed asset against which there will be the lending happening. So, over here, when we say margin requirement, we are talking about the margin that is supposed to be retained with a bank. Now, when is that? When the public is going to approach the bank for some kind of a loan or a borrowing using some collateral. So, look at this line. It says it refers to the difference between the market value of the security. So, let's take an example, right? So, as against a house or a building, if there is a loan sought, then the market value of the house, right, minus the amount lent will be the margin requirement. Fine. So let's assume the value of the house is 1 lakh, right? The amount that is going to be lent is 90,000. Fine. So that means there is going to be a difference between the market value of the security and the amount that is lent. 1 lakh minus 90,000. 1 lakh I told you is the value of the asset. And the amount of loan that is going to be given is going to be 90,000. So 1 lakh minus 90,000 is the 10,000. So that means 10,000 is retained as a margin with the bank. So this is for the safety and security of the bank, because they are doing a profitable business, isn't it? And they are giving this loan as against the collateral. So they would obviously retain some amount. Yeah, and that amount that is retained is what is a margin. So this margin, it is again fixed up by the RBI as a percentage, and in our example it happens to be 10%, right? So 1 lakh is the market value of the asset and 90,000 is what is lent, and 10% of 1 lakh, which is 10,000, is going to be the margin, correct? So let's assume there is going to be inflation in the economy. So when there is inflation in the economy and when the government decides it is because of the a certain sector, it decides to increase the margin for that particular sector, right? So increase in margin, it will reduce the amount of money that is lent, correct? Now what did we see? The difference between the market value and the amount lent is what is the margin. So when the margin is going to go up, that means the amount that is lent is going to go down. Yeah, let's say instead of 10%, the margin is going to go on to 50%. So that means instead of lending 90,000, then only 50,000 will be lent. Yeah, so increase in margin will reduce the credit creation capacity, money supply reduces, and aggregate demand will fall because of that. On the contrary, when there is going to be decrease in the margin, then that would mean the RBI wants more amount of money supply in the economy. That's why they are basically reducing the margin, because they want the loan to go up, they want the loan amount to go up. So that would increase the money supply, and aggregate demand will be, the deficient aggregate demand will be corrected, it will increase. Fine. So this is how the margin that is required to be kept by the RBI, when it is going to be altered, will alter the aggregate demand and the excess aggregate demand and the deficient aggregate demand, right? So let us see that increase in margin will cause the AD to fall, and decrease in the margin, it will increase the aggregate demand. Now next qualitative instrument is that of moral suasion. Moral suasion is nothing but combination of persuasion and pressure that the central bank is going to apply onto the commercial banks. Now why will that be done? Because you have understood that the entire monetary system, it has to work in coherence. Now let's say the RBI wants a tight money policy, that is, it wants to control the credit or the money supply in the economy. Now the commercial banks are the ones who are going to deal directly with the public. So if they do not listen to what the RBI says, they do not follow the norms set up by the RBI, they are simply going to lend more and lend more. Already there is inflation. Now that will still become worse because of such a policy, isn't it? So when commercial banks are not going to listen to the RBI, it becomes a huge problem. So RBI will use a combination of persuasion and pressure so that the commercial bank will act according to the policy of the RBI. So whenever there is going to be a tight money policy decided, that would mean the money supply is to be controlled, and probably it's because of inflation or an excess aggregate demand. And on the contrary, when there is going to be a liberal money policy, that very word tells you that money supply should increase. That's the policy the RBI wants, and probably that's because there is deficient demand in the economy and RBI wants more money supply in the economy, right? Now, one more selective tool is that of credit rationing. Now, credit rationing, the very word tells you that it is some kind of control. So it's a quantitative control, yeah, that is, it is controlling the amount of credit given. Instead of saying no credit, probably to some sectors less amount will be lent, especially for speculative activities, for inflation creating activities. The government will decide not to extend loan. It will intimate the same to RBI. RBI again will say the same thing to the commercial bank, and commercial banks have to follow that, right? So credit rationing will be wherein they will be controlling of the credit, and the RBI and the commercial bank, they will decide whether to give credit or not give credit to certain sectors, right? And whenever there is going to be a deficient demand in the economy, probably any such credit rationing is there will be removed. No limitation, no control on the quantity of credit that is going to be given. There will be removal of the rationing or the credit control. That means it would encourage the lending, and thereby money supply in the economy will go up. So over here, when there is excess demand in the economy, there will be credit rationing, and when there is deficient demand in the economy, the credit rationing will be eliminated. Fine. So that's yet another qualitative tool. Now we will move on to fiscal measures. Fiscal tools are the tools of the government. There are three basic tools. One is the public revenue, the other one is the public expenditure, and then of course there is also the public debt policy. Now in this diagram, what is given is the government expenditure, which is given as change in G, right? Change in G over there is nothing but the change in the government expenditure. So this first diagram, look into that. It gives you the full employment equilibrium, which is at E, right? And that is because of the reduction in the government expenditure. So look at this particular area over here. You see the dotted line, the aggregate demand, which is represented as a dotted line, is the aggregate demand that prevails in the economy. That means corresponding to the full employment equilibrium, there is an excess aggregate demand to the extent of GE. What is required is AD1, but what is actually there in the economy is AD. So corresponding to the full employment, you observe that to the extent of GE, there is an excess aggregate demand in the economy, and probably that will cause an inflationary gap. So to correct this, the government decides to cut out on the government expenditure. So when the government expenditure is going to be slashed or reduced, the AD falls. See, look at that. AD, which is a dotted line, which is actual AD in the economy, is C plus I plus G. Now, because of this inflationary gap, the government decides to cut the government expenditure. So that would reduce the AD, and the AD falls down from AD to AD dash. So when the, look at this, C plus I plus G minus change in G. So that is how the inflationary gap will be corrected due to reduction in the government expenditure. And the next diagram, that gives you a situation where there is a deflationary gap in the economy, right? So this F is what is going to be the deficient demand equilibrium, which says that to the extent of, let's just give it a name. Probably if you connect it to the x-axis, you will end up with some output level OM1, and that OM1 will be short of the full employment output. So to correct this deficient demand or a deflationary gap that is prevailing, the government decides to increase the government expenditure. So when government expenditure is going to be increased, the AD will shift up. It will become C plus I plus G plus change in G, right? So the AD will shift up, and as a result of that, the new equilibrium will be attained to the right of this original equilibrium at E. At E, at the new AD, the AS will attain equilibrium, and that will be corresponding to the full employment level, right? So that is how the deflationary gap will be corrected by an increase in the government spending, right? So government, it is going to make use of this so-called tool called public expenditure, right? Public expenditure or government spending that will correct the inflationary gap or the deflationary gap, or that is going to be a tool for tackling excess aggregate demand and deficient aggregate demand, right? So the second fiscal measure is that of the taxation. Public revenue is yet another tool that the government has. So you know that tax is one major public revenue or the government's receipt. Fine. So when there is going to be an increase in the taxes, you know that the disposable income of the population will go down because of that. When people pay more taxes, the money that is going to be left with them for spending becomes less. So that will reduce the consumption expenditure. That will in turn curtail the excess aggregate demand. Again, on the contrary, when there is going to be decrease in the taxes, that would give more money to the population to spend. So the population will spend more on consumption. So deficient demand will be eliminated because of that, right? So those are the fiscal measures and the monetary measures that corrects the excess aggregate demand and the deficient aggregate demand in an economy. So with that, we come to the end of income and employment theory. Thanks for watching all my previous videos. So with that, you're ready to crack the entire income and employment unit. Best of luck.